All right. Ready to go 12 rounds?
I'm prepared to go 12 rounds. I'm not sure if you're ready to go two.
Probably. Because essentially this is just going to come down to a giant case of I like this and I don't. But yes, let's get into it, guys. So, I made a little bit of a boo-boo this week.
Or at
Spoiler,
least you think you did. You think you made a boo-boo.
well, yes, and you know what? This is also kind of a way for me to just like vent a little bit about some of my personal feelings about on certain things, and maybe just like we'll call it an exercise in self-control. So, spoiler alert for the team Movie Trivia Schmoedown match between Who's the Boss and the Odd Couple that happened live last weekend in Chicago. And yes, Jonathan Peck, we did see your message. That's really fucking cool, man. I'm very happy to see that. And my foot tastes pretty good. The cool guy. So to give a little warm up of the match. So you have the Odd Couple, Jeff Snyder, Mark Andreyko, two legends of the game. You know, one of them who is arguably the best player to have never won a belt, and the longest running team champion of all time. Managed by Roxy Stryer, who, you know, depending on your views of her from Collider Live, either you love her or you hate her. And I'm kind of right in the middle on her. There are some times where I just absolutely, love her on Collider Live. Other times I think not so much. And it's really on just kind of little things, like that one time where she said, if you don't believe in aliens, you can just fuck off and die. Not a fan of that, but whatever, that's fine. And then on the other flip side of the coin, you have Who's the Boss, managed by Tom Dagnino. The man needs no introduction. He's got a show called Little Bobby and the Jews, for fuck's sake. You know, and
Want to goldfish here? Want to
goldfish
here?
And you have the competitors, Mark Riley, one of the greatest players in the Schmoedown history, former two-time champ, legend in the game. And you also have Ben Bateman, one of the hottest up-and-comers who now everyone likes because he went face and because his teammate is a complete piece of shit. At least his character is. And side note, guys, I actually, as much as I give Andrew Guy crap, he's such a wonderful human being. I adore that man so much.
He is. He is. Like, I recently commented on a post he did. He's doing a thing for the military in his most recent acting gig. And I was like, why must you be such a nice person, but you have to play the biggest douchebag, the biggest douchebag on my favorite game show? Why must you do this to me?
And I loved how he said that made his day. That that was awesome. And of course, I had to share that same ad because while I myself am not a veteran, I come from a long line of veterans, and while I myself will never pick up the gun and willingly put myself in a battle situation, I have nothing but respect for those who do. And never let me say that I don't support the troops, because I always will. So, and again, thank you, Andrew, for putting that ad out there. I think that was wonderful.
We have a soldier on our regular panel in Ryan.
Exactly. And, and that's one of the reasons I love Ryan, is that he won't throw that in my face anytime that we have a political discussion. In fact, I have to just say, I'm the one who always says, I thank him for his service like almost every show he's on, because I genuinely appreciate, his sacrifice for this country that you and I live in. Case can go fuck himself, but I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But he and I disagree on shit all the time. So then why to me does it make a difference if holy shit. Robert, thank you so much for your service, man. I greatly appreciate you and all that you've done. So then why is it that I seem to have this stigma of when it comes to the Movie Trivia Schmoedown where I don't want real life bleeding into the show. Like, and I very much epically failed to say that the other day in our reaction to said match. Now, Nico, before we actually talk about the big moment, what were your thoughts on that match? A little refresher.
Just the match.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very good match, and it went a lot of the ways I thought it would. In that, Mark Andreyko, he was embracing the fact that this was his home crowd. Chicago is his territory. And Jeff Snyder, he's just the ultimate showman. He was eating that crowd up. And the after the performance they had at the free-for-all, I felt like momentum was on their side, and it showed once again. I did notice there were some people complaining about how during Who's the Boss's final question, they were a little mad at Snyder for talking while they were trying to answer. And, I can see that gripe. At the same time, Jeff Snyder is not the only person who's done that in the past. So
I was about to say, I'm
set
pretty
a rule
Ben
for it.
Bateman was one of those people who used to do that.
If you have a problem with it, set a rule for it. Talk to the commissioners. Talk to Sam Levine and Emma Fife. Have a rule put in place if you have an issue with that, stating that all competitors must be quiet during the third round when questions are being answered. Because, even sometimes when it's just the hosts trying to do banter. Like, I've been in matches where certain times the hosts would want to keep banter going during the third round, and it was a little distracting for my ability to think about the answer. So I understand the complaint. But again, if you want to have something done about it, bring it up to the people in charge. But aside from that, the match itself was really good. It was entertaining, high scoring. It kept you on the edge of your seat as the score changed so much. Well done. Well done.
And that's kind of exactly how I felt as well. I mean, Snyder is one of the best heels in the game, and I love his personality. But and Draco, he does a great job of towing the line where yes, he can play a face very convincingly, and he can be a good heel, as we saw back in his time in the Lion's Den where he was in Blofeld's Cat and whatnot. But what and obviously you know where I'm gonna go with this. So that final question happens. Bateman and Riley couldn't feed him to the pigs. And with that, the dear old the Odd Couple won. And they will now go on to face the Shire Wolves and talk about I don't know what the hell is going to happen in that match. But during what was supposed to be the friendly, handshake or hug or whatever, Snyder pulls a very heel move and is just, oh, he's too cool. Pulls it on Bateman. Then Draco, he steps up to Bateman and he's just like, nah, I'm out. So, okay, classic heel move. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Now here comes Roxy. Now, keep this in mind, folks. This is a real-life ex-couple who, yes, I get it. I'm aware that, Harloff probably sat down with both of them and said, hey, listen, if this happens, are we cool with going this route? And you know, she smacks the crap out of him. Like the moment itself is kind of amazing. And I appreciate it. And I even appreciated that really stupid video that all of a sudden here comes in Mr. Cackle himself, Andrew Guy, and, you know, oh my God, what a loser. Dude, like she just smacked the shit out of you, man. You know, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and of course, you know, I got my wrestling bitch. I had my wrestling bitch face on because I don't like Dastardly Drew Guy. I never have. I never will. But that's the point. You're not supposed to like him. So then we come up to the post-match interviews finally, because everyone's off stage now, and Jen Sturger has to track everyone down. And, you know, I appreciated how Who's the Boss kept it classy the entire interview. I really appreciated that. But then we come to the scene that even you, Nico, yourself said was awkward as fuck. And that was the post-match interview for The Odd Couple. And this is... Here, you know what? I'll let you start this off. What is it that I seem to not get? Because, again, I get it. I just don't like it. So why am I supposed to like it? What happened?
Here's what you're not getting. You're not supposed to like it. The intended reaction was, as I wrote on the board, this is awkward. This is the reaction we were all supposed to have because it was all supposed to feel real. This was a worked shoot. This was the blurring between reality and fiction, which you, again, voiced that you did not like. You did not like this. And to which I keep saying, that was the point. You were not supposed to like this. You were not supposed to like that Roxy just went heel and she had a real-life reason for doing so. It was meant to make everyone feel uncomfortable. And the reason why I'm getting praised is because I understood that was the intended reaction. That was what they were going for. That's what everyone in this particular video was going for, and it would not have happened had not everyone given their approval on the thing. Ben had to approve of this angle. Roxy had to approve of this angle. And by the way, there's a chance what we saw might not have happened had Who's the Boss won. Because we know that this is a choose... I think the
slap would have happened regardless.
But still, this is a choose-your-own-adventure environment that we're dealing with. And the adventure that we go on is all dependent on who wins the game and by how much. So the plan was, you know, Ben is trying to cement himself as a face. And the recurring theme is there are still people who don't believe he's officially changed. Like we've seen the posts on the Facebook group where people are saying, what if Ben is an infiltrator? What if he is a spy, a double agent? And the actions that he conducted himself by after the match, he wants to shake people's hand, and they're turning him down. They're turning him down. They're turning him down. And so in a way, in my eyes, Ben was already face as of when he got put through that coffee table. But there were still those holdouts. So in a way, this was like a double turn moment in wrestling. This was like when Stone Cold Steve Austin, the heel character, became a face, or rather a tweener, when he refused to tap out when Bret Hart had him in the sharpshooter for the longest time. And he just ended up passing out from the pain. He earned the respect of the fans. And in my eyes, this has been, by not retaliating violently or in an unproductive and vicious manner, this was him cementing himself as a full-fledged face, and it gives Roxy and then Draco a bit of an edge because they're still the holdouts that don't want to believe that he's changed, and it's making them look bad, and it's furthering the heel turn for them. So again, basically, what you're not getting is that this you feel like you were supposed to like the reaction that you had. You were supposed to like what you saw, and the point is you weren't. You were supposed to feel uncomfortable. You were supposed to hate that they were acting this way because that was the intended plan.
Okay. Yes. And I got that. I understood it. And no, I didn't like it, but I don't like it on principle at all. Because, and granted, and I think there's a little bit of a deeper reason as to why. Now, guys, a little context here. I try not to talk too much about my past work on pre-dedicated art on this show or on this channel at all, just because, depending on who you ask, it could be an ugly history or it could be a nothing history. But when I was involved in the very first fan league and how we were taking off with that and we were starting our own kind of storylines and whatnot, one of my big things was never put real life in the storyline. Because I don't want people's actual drama to be used just to promote a match or to promote an event or so on and so forth. So I don't know if that makes me wrong for that firm belief, which I will stand on. I will not back down. Like, and I don't know, Nico, from hearing that though, maybe should I consider, just for the sake of our reactions and enjoying this show even better?
Here's what I'll say. And it's something I've said before on a couple of the other videos that we've done. Wrestling is life. Life is wrestling. Schmoedown is wrestling. Wrestling is the Schmoedown. And therefore, Schmoedown is life. And life is the Schmoedown. These are we're dealing with entertainment that takes elements of reality, turns it into fiction, and we just go and we get stories out of it. And some of the best stories in fiction are based off of reality. Like my current storyline in these fan leagues right now, and some of the commissioners of the various leagues might not know it because I haven't said so, but basically my storyline right now is my real life tale to get my career back on track, because I haven't really been on that much of a winning streak as of late. I've had like 17 matches all year, and I've only won twice officially. So I'm trying to get back on track. It's the story of the ant versus the grasshopper, and it's just a matter of I don't have a grasshopper. I'm the ant who's trying to put all the work in to get myself back on course. And it's just a matter of where's the grasshopper that's going to end up keeping me down and say I don't belong in the anthill anymore. Is that going to sting a little bit inside? Absolutely. Because, yeah, it sucks to lose. It sucks to be pointed out. It sucks to have all your failures pointed out in front of you. But it makes for a good story. And when you actually win finally and you get yourself back to the top of that mountain, it makes the journey all worth it. And that's essentially where we're going with Ben and Guy and all these other moving parts here, is that this is the story of Ben trying to prove that he is a good guy and people not wanting to believe him. And they're having their own reactions to his behavior. They're acting in denial. They're acting in violence because of that denial. And where that story goes is going to be interesting. Again, because part of it depends on whether or not Ben actually wins his matches coming up. Because like if he doesn't win against Guy in Texas, he's out of singles for the rest of the year. And so where's his story going to go from there? Is he going to turn back heel, or is he going to stay face and steer the course with Riley? And we're going to get a feel-good story come the end of the season.
But we know for a fact.
Do we?
Well, okay. Fine. Not for a fact, but let's think about the man who is telling this story. Let's just think about Harloff for a moment. how does his mind work? The way
His
that
mind works like a combination of Vince McMahon and Dana White. But the thing is,
and
Christian even knows that there's an extent at which you can piss people off intentionally, that they will stop coming back for more. He knows that eventually you have to deliver in a good way to
and
keep the crowd
what
invested.
and what has the crowd been wanting ever since Ben went through the table? They actually are like, no, don't do this. Team Action was the best team of all time. We want our Team Action back. So what's going to happen at Houston? Win or lose, they're both going to stand up there at the end of that table, and they're going to cackle together, and they're going to say, ha! Sucks to suck. Because that's what we want.
But here's another example of when that didn't come to be. The Shield, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, one of the most popular trios in recent memory of the WWE. They did pretty much everything together. Dean was the United States champ, Seth and Roman were the tag champions, and they beat everyone under the sun. They beat legends, and eventually got to a point where you couldn't really do anything with them anymore as a faction. So you know what they did? They broke them up before they got stale. They had Dean and Seth feud for a bit, and Roman went on to do other things. And then eventually they brought them back for a match against one another where the title was on the line. And then once they were all in a certain place, they brought them back together after a few years. I feel like there's still ways to go with Ben and Guy as rivals as opposed to as friends and tag team partners. And I after 6 months, I feel like that's too soon to reunite them. Even after 1 year, I feel like that's too soon to reunite them. I want to see Ben realize his potential as a babyface because much like Janine, she started out as a heel. And then over time, her work ethic won the fans over and she became a face. And in a way, Ben has essentially done the same thing. If you go on the Schmoedown's YouTube channel, they have that radio interview they did in Chicago. And, Ben mentions that Kevin Smets, our good friend Kevin Smets, walked up to him and said, hey, listen, I've modeled a lot of my studying after yours from a sports mindset. And Kevin just happened to take it up to at the nth degree. But Ben is respected. Ben has become beloved. And, I get that people like Team Action because they were the loud, obnoxious heels, that got people talking. But
in
Ben
the minds
is
of
a different place now.
In the minds of their fans, they were faces, but we all know that they were dirty, rotten pieces of shit, and Dastardly Drew Guy still is.
Exactly, and I feel like Ben is at a point in his career where he's better suited to be the face that people want to root for. And he actually conducts himself in a way that makes you want to root for him sympathetically. Whereas Guy, I wanted to punch him in the mouth when I watched him at the free-for-all because it felt like he was just being nothing but disrespectful to the game and to the players at the desks next to him on stage. Ben, when he says he respects the game, it comes off as genuine. Guy is taking his assholeness up to the nth degree, and it just would feel wrong for me to turn
down
Ben
on
back.
it, and that's what makes him interesting to watch because he's an '80s action movie villain, and we love him for it. Well, okay, all of Guy's fans love him for it. Which, granted, yes, and I'll be honest, I still have yet to fully get into the wrestling side of things because look, and yes, as Robert Adams brought up, yes, Triple H did marry Stephanie McMahon in real life, and they're still married, if I recall correctly.
They're still married. They have kids, and they're running NXT. in the best possible ways while Papa Vince is kind of burying the main roster. I don't want to say bury, but he's not managing the main
He
roster properly.
well, no, you could say he's fucking up. And that's part of why I'm
But
not.
I don't want to use the word bury because that has a different connotation in wrestling. That has a very serious connotation in terms of wrestling terminology. So
No, but
I don't want
Vince
people to think
is.
you can.
But you can say Vince is fucking up, and that's fine.
Yes, he's fucking up, but I won't say he's burying anybody because that would imply that he's intentionally trying to throw members of his own roster under the bus. And he's not. He just doesn't know what he's doing anymore because he's a 70 plus year old man who does nothing but lift weights. He doesn't sleep. He gets mad when he sneezes because it's the one thing he can't control in life. And time has just passed him by where his ideas no longer work. And Triple H and Steph have shown that they have minds for the business that work in this day and age. And as soon as Vince passes away, and I hate to phrase it that way, but
It will happen sooner versus later.
the general consensus is that the WWE's main roster will be in a better place once Vince passes away because it means Triple H might be the one to take it over, and we've seen that he knows how to handle a wrestling show.
And, from everything I've heard, that's about as true as it gets. And, and well, then here. So, and I want you to be as honest as you can with me. Is my complete ignorance of WWE, is my complete lack of ignorance why I still sometimes struggle with some of those aspects of the Schmoedown?
I mean, I would assume there are probably some regular wrestling watchers who also felt the way you did, and that just could be their preference. But yeah, there's definitely something about not being in the wrestling loop that prevents some people from understanding what the point was of certain things. Like I can't tell you how many times I had to explain on the Facebook group yesterday
Guys,
what. Oh,
hashtag understand a ring. Make that a thing.
I didn't even realize I mispronounced the word. Um, but yeah, there were numerous times yesterday on the Facebook group page where I had to explain what a worked shoot was to the people who didn't understand wrestling.
Well,
And eventually and some people got the gist of it and some people were like, okay, that still doesn't make me feel any better about what I saw. And then I had to say, that was the point. You weren't supposed to like what you saw. But to get to the emphasis of the question here, there are going to be wrestling things that the Schmoedown will try to incorporate that you may not like, and this was one of them. Now, there could also be some wrestling stuff that they incorporate that you will love very much.
hell, the Anarchy tournament. It was a very wrestling thing to do, and I had loved
See,
it.
Impact Wrestling did that a couple of times over the years. They called it their Joker's Wild tournament, only it wasn't for the titles.
And
Basically, whoever won the tournament got $1 million, I think.
nice.
Uh,
Now, the cool guy in the chat actually is asking what is a worked shoot. Are you able to give him just a real quick?
So a shoot in wrestling is basically when someone goes off script and just brings reality into the whole situation. A worked shoot is when they bring reality into this fictional setting and it was part of the script. So you are intentionally, as the script dictates, blurring the lines between reality and fiction on screen. That's what a worked shoot is when you bring reality into fiction but you do it because the script told you to. Right. Not because you felt like it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've understood this the whole time. When you explained to me that, that there's a possibility that like that was how it's supposed to be from the beginning. Okay, yes, and you guys are right. You're right, and in Harloff's own words, I was dead wrong about how I came across. Now, to go back to what I said in my fucking tirade to end all tirades, which I have apologized for, and granted, I didn't need to. I chose to because I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like how I've felt since that incident, because it kind of ruined my week. And no, not the decision, but how I chose to phrase it and how I chose to keep it in the video. Because you wanted something, I could have taken it out before I uploaded it to YouTube, and I don't think anybody would have really noticed outside of you and Case. Is that fair to assume?
And I'm very glad Case told you, no, leave it in, because that kind of controversy is going to get us views in the first place, but also because you're being honest about how you feel in that exact moment. Don't cover up your honesty. We're now having this conversation where we get to hash things out and we get to explain ourselves and to get that better understanding from our audience, and also from Christian if he's watching right now.
Oh, he's not, but it's fine. It's fine. And look, if you guys want to send him a link to this, like once the show is done, I mean, please do. But I don't know if it's gonna make that big of a difference. But and to be fair, this will be a separate video from the from the main episode as well. I'll upload a separate thing for this, and he doesn't have to. If he wants to just say that, that you get it, and that's why you're the favorite, great, cool, awesome. Because, and I will forever continue to support the Schmoedown. I will happily keep being part of the Patreon. I will happily keep doing reaction videos because I love this show. I have loved this show for 3 years now, and if I were to just suddenly turn my back on everything just because of one fucking decision, then I'm not a real fan. But that said, I'm not gonna stand down on my thoughts of I hated this. I hated this decision. And I know that was the intention. I know I'm not supposed to like it. And I'm not going to be like, well, then why the fuck are you pointing in the first place, you fucking idiots? No. Because it's not my story. It's his story. And I can choose to not like, here, for another example. I love Rebels. I do. I love the show Star Wars Rebels. I think it's a wonderful show. But, Space Whales? That's terrible. AP5 singing? Is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen in my fucking life. But, does that mean that I don't love the show? No. It's one of those moments where I'm just going to have to preface by saying, I didn't like this. I understand if people do. I don't. And my thing is, I just feel like I didn't say it the right way. Even though apparently everyone's saying that I wasn't that terrible, and
Listen, in my eyes, you had one dumb moment out of that whole thing, and that was when you said they need to come out with a written statement,
yes,
explaining the situation.
Yep.
And granted, there might be some grounds to that simply because we don't have a lot of. There might still be some non-wrestling savvy people who don't understand.
And there are some boneheads who choose not to talk about this like we are right now.
But still, I feel like they're telling a story. It's been made clear to us that they're telling a story. The intention was to blur the lines between reality and fiction in this case. So if we already understand what's going on, there's no need for a written statement in that regard. And that's just where I felt like you jumped the shark a little bit.
What? Me do that? No, never. Yeah, and that's where I have to admit I was out of line. I was completely out of line when I said that in complete stupidity. So, and that is what I think I'm really trying to say. I owe Christian and all them a genuine apology for. And you know what? And to be fair, I'm sure they'll all tell me, Chris, you don't have to apologize for anything. It's like, no, just shut up and let me apologize, because the other reason that it's been bugging me like all week is because I try to preach just being a good person, trying to preach being a decent person, don't be a dick. And in that moment, what was I? I was.
I'm not going to
dick.
say you were a dick. I'm going to say you were you were a little confused, but I won't go as far as to say that. What I will say is this: we've been calling the Schmoedown season 6 the Magic season, the Magic season 6, the Magic 6,
and it still is
for a couple months now. The Magic season has now essentially entered the Attitude Era. Gone are the days before the Montreal Screwjob. We've now fully embraced the Attitude Era in this case. And so there's going to be more things that you might not like, but more things that you might also like because they push certain boundaries that weren't pushed before. Like, hell, now that I think about it, Eli McKay, he once pitched an idea to me for a fan league invasion of the Schmoedown, much like how WCW and ECW invaded the WWF after WCW went out of business and the McMahons had to buy the company. That was the end of the Attitude Era. If this is the start of the Attitude Era, who knows? That could come by in like season 8 or 9. 8, 9, 8, 9.
8.
But yeah, we're gonna try new things this season. Like the rumored Game of Thrones exhibition is still supposedly gonna happen at some point. That's the first endeavor into TV for the Schmoedown, should that match take place. I still believe that there's going to be a wrestling trivia Schmoedown at some point, simply because Christian likes wrestling.
Not till like season 10, but yes.
We are aware of wrestling personalities like Jay Washington and Ryan Satin, and hell, even John Roca. He's a gigantic wrestling fan, and there are plenty of YouTube guys out there who are who are part of the wrestling scene, like Steven Larson of Going in Raw, of the whole fucking show, Wrestling with Regret. There are a million avenues they could take to build up that division. Hell, TJ Marconi, who's an independent wrestler in the tri-state area on the East Coast, is a member of the Schmoedown fan group. There are plenty of ways they could approach that when they do finally decide to pull that trigger. And cool
maybe
guy.
Maybe I can talk to my local guy, Mitch Paradise, and see if he'd be down for doing something like that. But sorry.
And yeah, cool guy. I did suggest a tables match because that made sense to me. Andrew Guy put Ben Bateman through a table. Usually when that happens on wrestling, it ends with a tables match on the pay-per-view that follows the incident in which someone got put through a table just when they were fighting. So yes, I think that as part of the Houston, Texas main event between Andrew Guy and Ben Bateman, on top of the stipulations that have already been set upon us,
Andrew should get slapped for every question he misses.
That or the loser should go through a table, because that makes sense to me. And yes, I'm talking a bit like Jerry Seinfeld right now. I realize that.
What's the deal with tables? Come on.
But yeah, it makes sense to me. That's it. That's a new realm of pushing the boundaries that, in my mind, at least in terms of the canon that's been set, would make sense. Yeah, it makes sense to me for the Schmoedown. Try new things. And that's what we were doing, because that's what the Attitude Era was for, and that's what Magic Season 6 is now for. It's for trying new things, exploring new ways to grow the Schmoedown. And that's part of what this storyline was that we saw on Thursday, or earlier than that. If you are a member of the Patreon for the Schmoedown, you got to see it earlier. But yeah, we're trying new things. This was one of them. It got the desired reaction that Christian wanted. People were pissed. Or if you were a wrestling fan, you were like, yes, I like where this is going. They're trying new things. But yeah, we're in for a very interesting rest of the season.
I was about to say that kind of sounds like your final thoughts as well. Would that be a fair assessment? Or
I don't know what more I could possibly say.
Fair enough. So I'm gonna close out with this before I do the usual outro and whatnot. No, and I guess everyone is actually right when they say I wasn't necessarily being a dick. But the fact of the matter is that at the very least, in that one really stupid moment, I was out of line. Because I got it, but I was just so angry by what I, still somewhat consider an invasion of privacy, but I also have to understand, it was agreed upon. It was something that's, supposed to be part of the thing. And I know. I get it. That's fair. It's fair game. If everyone agreed upon it, it's fair game. I should just quit my bitching and move on with my life. But it's just because of my experience in, in being involved in this community as I was. It's just not how I would have done things. And yes, is that my own personal thing that I have to let go of? Yes, it is. And I guess I proved to myself this week that I'm not ready for that. There's still that little piece of old me that doesn't want to go.
You'd rather run your own personal Schmoedown like a martial arts league where people show respect for one another, show respect for the craft. Whereas you put some wrestling guys in charge, we're going to want to try some wrestling stuff. And I get that. It's a difference of opinion. And there are times where I would prefer the martial arts route as opposed to the wrestling route too. I'm a fan of both. So there are times where I feel like trash talk and antics are justified. And there are times where I feel like, I'd rather see some respect. I'd rather see some hugging after beating each other senseless. It's a weird dichotomy, but yeah, to each their own. You have your preferences, others have theirs, and
it's all a matter of how you present your opinion. I didn't do a good job of it, so when I get my ass thrashed on Monday, well, okay, I won't really get my ass thrashed. He'll probably say one or two things about how awful that one thing I said was, and then that'll be it. We'll be done.
Unless open invitation, can we come on Collider Live via Skype call and we can hash this out with the rest of the group on Monday and have a constructive conversation like we just had here. Like everyone can share their sides of the story and we can figure this out.
Good luck making that happen, bro. I mean, sure. Even if you guys in the chat all tweeted at Harloff, I don't know if that would happen. I don't think that's in the cards. I don't think there'll be time for that because Monday's going to be a busy enough show as is, with what's going to be the decision moving forward. And it's kind of funny because for as much shit as I gave that moment, I'm actually kind of excited to see what the decision's going to be. Like, how
for
is
Roxy, right? Yeah. Because I was like,
because,
are you still talking about yourself? I was confused.
And let's be real here. There's not going to be any real punishment because Harloff eats this shit up. If he had it his way, Andrew Guy would have never been punished at all for anything. But that's... And I'm giving him a little too much crap. I'm busting his chops a little bit too much. No, he's been doing a great job with this, and it just I just feel kind of bummed out that we had to have this. Okay, I'll just put it this way. I feel like this was there could have been a way to transition us into moments like this a little bit better than just suddenly, bam. Which, granted, it's kind of like diving into cold water. You can't just dip your toe in, otherwise you'll never actually fucking get in. You just have to jump in. But
I'll say one more thing.
Please.
In my eyes, you still come off better in this scenario than Makuga has in a lot of his kerfuffles on air.
Ouch. But kind of. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, Nico. I appreciate that. But yes. So, with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. It's Nico, I just want to say thank you. thank you for having this great conversation with me and letting us hash this out like men. You know, I'm giving you a hug across my screen because I appreciate you.
I'm glad we could have this talk as well because, you know, you need to sometimes be reminded that sometimes you didn't screw up even though you think you did. I busted your chops on air this morning. I will admit to that. I'm sorry for
not to
throwing
say
you
I
under the
did,
bus, although...
And again, not to say I didn't earn it because I totally fucking did.
But yet, like, the more conversations that are had about stuff like this, the more people will understand. And, you know, the more people that understand, the more people will be okay and accepting with the Schmoedown trying new things like this. And not even just the Schmoedown, but other people and other things trying other things and other people. I took that analogy in an interesting way at the end. But
yeah. Oh, my God. I was going to say, yeah, Robert, you better quote that Can't Feel the Love Tonight. Well done, sir. But yes, guys, thank you for tuning in. And remember, we are now available on podcast feeds. So please subscribe to us on Stitcher, iTunes, wow, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you guys get your favorite podcasts. Make sure you find us. There are links down in the description box below, and there will be links on our Facebook page and on Twitter. As soon as we're done, I'm going to post each individual feed on my Twitter in one giant thread. So just follow along there and help us grow this thing. And who knows? And speaking of this great conversation, you want to you know what I want to do in the future? I want us to sit down with maybe a Roka or a Bibiani or a Harloff and actually get in further into this. And
yes, please. Yes, please.
But that's not going to happen unless you guys help us make that happen. So that said, Nico, where can the good folks find you online?
Hold on, let me make sure there's nobody walking behind me. Okay, I'm safe. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli. That's NicoSuaveRegoli. You can find me right here on Dedicated to Art and all the places Chris will say in just a few moments. You can find me over on Multiplex Entertainment. That's the name of the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. The Twitter is at MultiplexYT. The Instagram is Multiplex Entertainment Network. The TeePublic is tpublic.com/user/multiplex. Buy our awesome shirts and check out myself and Zaddy Smith every Wednesday evening at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our geek-style discussion show called Crisis on Earthplex. And finally, Combat Wrestling Trivia is the name of the Facebook group. Combat Wrestling Network is the name of the YouTube channel. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. If you like wrestling, if you like wrestling trivia, come join us and also watch Adonis Nazario and James Berryman III's weekly Raw and SmackDown discussion show called the Raw and SmackDown Breakdown every Wednesday afternoon. Oh, and before I forget, Discord League, I'm making my debut soon. Stay tuned for that YouTube channel to watch me make my debut. And also Rolling Crits. It's a new show coming out on Twitch very soon. Don't know if we're going to stream tomorrow, but we are doing a test run to make sure everything goes smoothly for when we officially make our debut. But yeah, we're doing a tabletop show with a bunch of my friends from down here in New Kensington, Pennsylvania. And we're going to have a good time. Again, the name of the show is Rolling Crits. Coming soon.
All right, awesome. And you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, and Letterboxd at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D28 Channel. Please like our Facebook page. And yeah, like I said, launch the podcast feed. It's exciting. We got a bright new future ahead of us. And guys, you know what to do. Take care!
Yeah!